All right, let's see what you're talking about.
Except YouTube. I literally can't escape. It's surprisingly hot to wear a tinfoil hat. I don't know if you guys knew this.
Yeah, I think they don't conduct heat quite well. They like reflect it or something.
Well, you never worn a tinfoil hat before?
Tinfoil, not tinfoil hats. I don't wear tinfoil hats.
Now, this all started because of privacy concerns. Being tracked with literally everything I do just feels kind of odd. Mainly because I wanted to also regain control over my software. And not to be at mercy of what the tech overlords decide to do just one day.
The thing is like that's really the big thing. Like when cloud first started coming out, like the cloud computing, and a lot of companies were like moving everything into the cloud. So not necessarily taking advantage of cloud computing concepts and implementing them in their business in some way, but taking advantage of some product to be able to like say to stakeholders, yeah, we're in the cloud, we're using the cloud, we're taking advantage of cloud computing. They're actually really putting themselves in a predicament where they are being held hostage by the cloud providers. And I'm pretty sure the terms for like if you agree to like pay a certain amount for storage, it's kind of like Netflix. Like they can raise the price at any time, and like they just have to like send you an email saying, hey, we've changed our terms of service and we're raising the price. And then they can raise the price, and you're kind of screwed because a lot of the stuff it's a lot of cloud computing, like cloud native concepts that they use and they take advantage of at a core level. But they all have like a lot of nuance where it makes trying to go from one provider to the next, or to take something from a hosted provider to doing like locally hosted is extremely difficult. Like S3 is a good example in one way. So like Amazon, they came up with the S3 protocol for file storage, and it's really good. And they made it an open protocol, so anybody can use it. So you have stuff like MinIO, and you can use Ceph. There's a lot of ways to take advantage of like object storage. And you can use a lot of the same APIs, and it's pretty much universal. But the Azure, for example, they use blob storage, which they're probably essentially doing the same thing on the back end. But in order to switch from Azure's blob storage to something locally, you would end up having to like rewrite a lot of code and make a lot of structural changes to how things are being done, which it is a pain for a company. It essentially means it's going to cost money. So they're between a rock and a hard place in a lot of predicaments. And there's also lots of like software and stuff that people depend on that are like additional to like object storage, like making a data lake and stuff. Like there's open source ways to do all that stuff. And a lot of the cloud computing companies are essentially taking advantage of those open source standards and technologies and improving them and creating this nuance for their platform to make things more helpful for the customer. But in a way, it actually like binds them to the customer and prevents the customer from easily leaving. And like Amazon, for example, they charge you to not just like for S3, they charge you not just to store data, but to retrieve it. So let's say you're like saving up, stacking up terabytes of data that's important to you. Just to take it out and move it somewhere else is going to cost you a good amount of money. But that translates also to, they're doing it, tech companies are doing it there. They're also doing it everywhere else. It's all like a big game of chess, trying to force people into a position where they need the thing and they can't walk away from it because walking away from it is too high it's too difficult or it's scary or something like that.
Most importantly, I don't want to pay $20 a year for 100 gigabyte storage.
Yeah, and neither do cloud computing companies. That's actually a horrible deal. a horrible deal.
Not happening! I realized since swapping to Linux, my life has just been going upwards. I'm practically ascending next step. But I realized there's always an open source alternative, and a lot of times they're better. They just don't have $1 billion budget to market.
Oh yeah, and all that cloud, like a lot of that stuff's really cheap up front, and it's like, oh, I can like model this application and it's really cheap, and I'm still in the free tier, and my prices are really predictable, and it's good in a way because like when you scale, you can predict how much it's going to cost, at least in the short term.
Themselves.
But when you start actually really using the thing at scale, it starts to get really expensive, and people end up with some outrageous bills from these cloud service providers all the time. I hear about it all the time, and people are hired just to go in and clean it up and figure out why the heck they're spending so much money.
So I went down the Google rabbit hole, and I want to share what I learned, because by the end of this, once you know what I know, bro, you're gonna want one of these cool hats as well. So let's go through the de-Googleization. I want to be honest and share what I think you should absolutely change, and maybe what was more hassle than worth. Number 1, your search engine. Change your search engine right now. You can do it now while I keep yapping. Just go to your browser settings, find the search default browser, and change it to DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo is actually starting to get pretty good, like rivaling Google in the quality of the search results. Way less advertising. And the thing about DuckDuckGo is I can trust DuckDuckGo a bit more about what they're serving me because they don't have as big of an incentive to make money off of what I find in the search results.
It's a search engine that doesn't track what you do.
But it's a lot better than it used to be. To the point where I use it on my like personal phone, and in most cases, even like when I'm doing development, and it works great. And if you know, like some of the stuff like search engine operators, like DuckDuckGo doesn't have like a full, like a very robust suite of them, and like they don't always work, but they're good enough to get like what you're looking for most of the time.
Just works. Boom. Maybe you prefer everything you do online to be tracked and logged. I don't know. Maybe you're in that ballpark. I think just most people are either oblivious or lazy. So I'm telling you now, don't be lazy. Number 2, your browser. When I told you to change to your default search engine, you did not just do that inside of Google Chrome, did you? Say it ain't so. There are way better browsers out there. I use Firefox. It's kind of B tier, but you can...
He's making a very good point. Google Chrome, Google Safari, a lot of the companies using browsers have been caught and litigated and lost in court several times. And I can share a link, like a source for that. There's a guy who does search engine optimization, blackhatseo.com, I think, or .org. He's really intelligent. He stays up on this stuff. But they've been caught several times injecting code or putting things in web pages and search results that make it appear that slow down the browser so that you're more inclined to use Google Chrome. Google Chrome got caught doing that, and I'm pretty sure somebody got caught doing that. I'm pretty sure it was Google or Safari or both. But Google got caught doing that, and they don't do it anymore. And as far as I know, and Firefox works very well in most cases. And they also share all that data. So like if you spend any amount of time like looking at like at search engine optimization, and you're trying to understand, like if you really think about it like logically, how does Google get the data, the search engine data, to find out whether or not people are clicking on your website, and whether or not they're staying on your website if you're not using a Google search engine, or if you're going directly to the link? So my theory is there's 2 ways. So one way is that in order to like monetize your site, or you can invite Google essentially into looking at your website and like put some code on your website or something like that, giving them access to be able to see that kind of stuff, like some JavaScript webhooks. Pretty sure you have to do that, or that's built into like if you're using AdSense or something. But also browsing data is a very big one.
Lock it down into
from their browser.
This S tier. A lot of people swear by Brave browser. I never tried it. My point is this is super easy to change. And have you ever thought why browsers are free to begin with? Why is Microsoft so...
Brave's cool. Brave's actually really good at like blocking privacy tracking stuff.
Oh, why do they want you to use their browser so goddamn badly, you know? Why do they all make it free? Could it be because they track everything you do online and sell or trade your data? What? What do you mean? They don't make this out of...
Yeah, it's a weapon. We live in the information age, and he who has the most information can see the farthest into the future and can use that to manipulate and control people. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're manipulating and controlling people into buying their stuff, into thinking what they want them to think, so that they're an ideal target for their advertising campaigns, etc. On and on and on.
The goodness in their heart? You're telling me Google isn't just a $1 trillion charity? What? I found online that in 2023, Google paid Apple to be their default search browser in Safari. Guess how much? 20 billion. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and that's a lot of money. Like for private, corporate, I think, and if that's, I think he said 2020, that's 1 year. $20 billion. That's a lot of money. And if they're doing that and paying that money so happily, and it's such an important part of their strategy, you got to you got to wonder how much money they're making because of that investment. It's probably significantly more. Significantly more.
They definitely want you to use Google. So just don't.
Yeah, that's how they made their money.
It will take you...
All this other stuff, like all the Google Cloud and all that stuff, was funded by search engines and their browser and all the money that they made selling data and selling advertising space.
2 minutes, go do it. Number 3, the third thing I changed. Like many of you, I've been using Google Mail for years and years and years. And apparently up until 2017, that's when they stopped scanning your emails to serve you ads. So now...
Allegedly.
Now Gmail is a little less creepy, you know, but if you think about it, it is probably the most invasive service that they run. Like, and there are free alternatives.
Maybe they're not scanning your email to sell you ads, but they probably have something legally worked out where they can sell de-identified data, and a very talented behavioral analyst or data analyst or data scientist can reverse engineer a lot of the details about somebody by looking at this de-identified data. Happens all the time.
It is out there like Proton. I haven't tried it out. I decided to send this bitch and get my own email. I paid a small fee. It was fiddly as hell. But at least people won't think I'm poor and have like Google Schmoogle in my ad domain. Number 4.
Yeah, it's simple. Like just that's where like the search engines and then the email is like where all this freeware crap started. And having private email is very important, and protecting your email is very important. And
with me de-googling lately, I realize it's time for me to de something else. I don't want to say the joke. Anyway, I started working with G Fuel 6 years ago. G Fuel sponsor! Out. PewDiePie. This t-shirt! I'll tell you that much. Part of history. We got many more exciting G Fuel. It's crazy. I didn't realize this is how deep I've been swept. Everything is Google! It's crazy.
So Google makes the Pixel, and it's actually a really good phone. I mean, there's like some bad things about it. Like there are some like non-open source blobs for drivers, like graphics cards, some exploits that are floating around. But the Pixel is like one of the easiest phones to install a custom operating system on, which is a good thing.
I didn't realize just how deep I've been swept into this ecosystem without realizing it. My goddamn TV is Google. I thought it was a Sony TV. You open up, it's like, Google TV. How did that happen? I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm supposed to be enamored by the phone, how amazing it is with its incredible hardware, and how powerful it is. But if it's so great, then why do I feel like I'm the product? Huh? I hate my phone.
Because you are the product. Your phone, before doing whatever you probably are about to explain, is a piece of real estate that you don't own. I can explain clearly that you don't own it because you're not allowed to run any operating system in a lot of cases other than what came factory installed, especially if you're renting or you have a phone on a loan from AT&T and Verizon. And Verizon actually, in a lot of cases, I know this is true with some of the models of the Pixel, works with Google so that there's like a specific type of model that has different hardware, slightly different hardware. It comes with something that prevents you from overwriting the operating system so that they can basically control it. They say it's to prevent fraud and theft and stuff like that, but they have eternal control over the phone. It's not yours. If somebody can do that, it's not yours. In the same way that if you don't pay your property taxes in America, your house can be taken. Or if you don't pay your HOA fees, if you live in an HOA, it's not yours. You're renting it.
Notifications just feel like they're there to suck me in, not to tell me anything useful. All these apps and features, I feel like my attention span is just getting mushed the more I use my...
Yeah, it's a piece of real estate, and everybody is fighting for the ability to advertise in that space to you.
My phone, I hate it. It's just one big giant distraction device.
And the phones are designed to distract you. And it's very hard. Like, have you ever had like an iPhone and like you turn off notifications, but you still get notifications? Or like you get like these weird, like every time somebody posts or likes something or comments on something, these social media companies are telling you about it, trying to get you engaged. It's like very invasive. Like it's like somebody coming up and like poking you all the time while you're working or while you're doing something, and saying, "Hey, did you hear this? Did you hear about this? Did you see this? Look at this. Hey, psst, look at this." And you wouldn't let somebody do that in your regular life. You would probably get pretty mad at them and put them in their place, or respectfully set a boundary. But nobody sets boundaries when it comes to their phone.
Nice. So I have a Pixel 9, and it is a good phone. And I already own it, so instead of switching it out...
He really owns it. Buy your phones, save up your money. Instead of paying like $100 or $150 or what, $75 a month for 2 years, just eat it for a period of time, save up money, and the next phone that you get, buy it outright. Buy it completely outright. If you get an iPhone, don't recommend that. But if you get an iPhone, buy it directly from the Apple Store. If you get a Pixel, buy it directly from Google or Best Buy, and make sure it's 100% factory OEM unlocked. Because Verizon, so there's the hardware level stuff that Verizon does, but there's also the software level stuff. And like a lot of times, if you want to have like a regular Verizon plan, like not a prepaid plan, which I recommend. Like Verizon's a good network, but I highly recommend to use their or anybody's prepaid plan. Like don't sign up for like a full-fledged plan with them, because in order to use it, like I've tried to run like 2 SIM cards on my Pixel, where one is a prepaid SIM, and then another one is like with a Verizon plan. And I didn't want to download or install the Verizon app, or I was sandboxing. I didn't want to give it permissions, and like the number that I paid for, like, just didn't work. It didn't work at all.
Onto like a dumb phone or something like that.
Which, like, the telephony is pretty simple. I mean, like, it's complicated, but you take the SIM card, you put the SIM card in the phone, and radio is used to communicate with the cell phone tower, and that's how you get your service. So, like, why do I need to install an additional app that asks or requires all these permissions, like basically root access to my phone in order to work? It doesn't make any sense.
That I know a lot of people do. I wanted to install a custom OS on it. There was a lot of them to choose from, but I opted for Graphene.
Boom.
Graphene. Mainly because it felt like the biggest point the finger to Google, you know? It's an operating system focused on privacy and security. Apparently so much so that even Edward Cullen uses it. Did I get that right? I would Google it, but I can't. But here's the thing, okay? For some reason, I feel like I'm the crazy one. Huh? What? Why do you want to Google so bad, huh? What do you got to hide, huh? This guy got graphene on his phone. What's up with that? I feel a little judged, okay? But after using graphene, I realize, no, this is how it should be. I'm not the crazy one. There's a few features on graphene that I really like, and these are just to name a few. Especially with security, I really like how they amped it up, but the fact that I close an app on graphene and it closes.
Yeah, it actually closes. And a lot of times, some stuff like system critical stuff will, automatically start back up, but you can close apps to the point where, like, you can crash your phone or your phone will stop working. You can sandbox or disable apps that are system critical, and then your phone won't work until you turn that back on. So, you do kind of got to be careful, but it's like common sense, really, with a lot of stuff.
The app. Crazy. A lot of...
You can also say, like, you can also specify, like, say you have LinkedIn. You can make it so that it's not allowed to run in the background, so that whenever you close it from your window, like, it's not constantly sending you notifications or collecting data from you.
A lot of times on your phone, if you think you've closed an app, but in reality, running in the background and still tracking whatever it is they want to.
Yeah, collecting your sensor data, a lot of stuff that they never specified. Like, the permissions are really vague, and it's a game of chess. Like, you give up. And I blame the, like, Apple and all the Android people creating Android phones and the Google operating systems, the Android Google operating system, because it's like you give permission to one thing and you actually give permission to several other things that aren't specified in a granular way, and it's annoying.
Graphene, nuke that shit. It's gone. Such a crazy concept, right? I'm the crazy one. Number 2, I control exactly what the app has access to. You can use file or storage scopes, I think it's called. And if I want to give an app access to a certain type of files, I pick which folder. Not the entire device, as it should be. Not some vague little pop-up going like, hey, do you want to give them access to this? No.
Yeah.
No. Complete control. Number 3.
And that's what I'm talking about, is like access to files could include access to pictures and access to the file system where all the others apps on your phone are installed, so the app can technically see what other apps are installed on your phone without requesting permission from Google Play services in the case of Android. Like, without making an API request, without needing the permission to do that, to find out what else is installed on your phone.
Whenever you install an app on Graphene, it asks you before installing it, hey, do you want to give this app access to your internet? Because a lot of times the answer is, heck no.
Yeah, most of the times it's no. Like, note-taking apps, keyboards, like for Android, you can install, like, Gboard is like one of the best ones. It has, like, a really good language model for voice to text.
Not happening.
A lot of stuff you really don't need internet access. You don't need network access at all, and you can totally eliminate that, because, like, all the apps on Graphene run in a VM, so you can install, like, the APK directly, or you can install, like, Sandbox Google Play, And if you install Sandbox Google Play, it sandboxes Google Play in such a way that Google Play believes that it's installed directly on the phone because it has access to all the sensors, and it can verify that that this is a Pixel device, and that it's a safe device, that it's been certified by Google for Google Play to run, and it will tell other apps that. But it doesn't have it runs in a virtual machine, basically, like uses QEMU, and all the apps are spawned in virtual machines as well.
I realized I was trying desperately to find a keyboard that has Japanese, Swedish, and English. I really like the Swift kind of typing, you know? I just couldn't find an open source alternative, and I was like, what do I do? And then I realized the alternative is Microsoft or Google, okay? And I realized the keyboard that they offer is connected to the internet.
Yep.
Why?
Looks like he chose Gboard. Good choice.
Why? Imagine you bought a physical keyboard and it was secretly connected to the internet, sending big tech everything you type.
Yeah, that wouldn't be okay. Nobody would sign up for that.
Not doing anything weird. Just trust us, bro. It's so messed up. On Graphene, I still have the option, and if I want to take a Google app, I can starve it, put it in one of those. I still don't like that I use a Google app, but no, actually, it's good. Google.
Yeah, there's even like on Graphene OS, like on the forum, there's like an explanation of like if you want to use speech to text, like how to download the Gboard app from the Google Play Store and sandbox, like you can download the language model so that you can use voice to text. You can get all the features of Gboard and restrict its access to the internet so that it uses the models that are downloaded instead of like constantly communicating back and forth with Google and updating or making the service better for your specific voice, which sounds convenient and it's nice, but you're giving Google a lot of data by doing that. A lot of very personal information, especially like what you type. I mean, you think about like a keylogger, like that's one, that's pretty bad.
Please at my mercy for.
And not only that, it's not just like what you say isn't important, but a lot of people don't realize that acoustics and acoustic signals can be used to determine a lot more than just what you're saying and what you're thinking. It can be used to determine a lot about your physiology and a lot of other stuff that's pretty creepy.
Once feels good. Another feature that I think is kind of obvious and most people would appreciate, but there was a fourth hidden feature on Graphene that I love. That it is not a feature, but for me it ended up being one. Like I talked about in the beginning, it feels a lot of times when I use a phone, it's such a distraction. There are some apps that you probably have to use. Maybe it's for work or because of friends and you want to connect. Whatever, you're gonna have to use certain apps that you don't really want to use. So I decided to put all those apps, and you can do this as well actually, on a different profile. The good thing about
and that's a good way to, like, if you want like your core, the good way to do it, and this is like how you should use a computer as well. Like the you have the root user, so to speak, where you can kind of control the rest of the operating system. So you install Graphene, and then you have your primary profile, and you just use all the basic apps there. And then if you want to use like sandboxed Google Play, you do it in a different profile.
Graphene is that on a different profile, all these apps are contained in that profile. They can't connect to anything else on my phone or run.
And I think the Pixel, last time I checked, does offer this, but Graphene does it way better.
In the background or anything like that. That's what's great about Graphene, and that's why, to me, it felt like a good solution with all the apps that I don't want to use. But what this ended up doing was...
And it's great, too, if you want to have, like, if you just want to, like, pop up a quick pseudo online personality and, like, make an account to, like, look at Facebook or something, or you want to do something somewhat anonymously, that's a good way to do it, too. And then when you're done, you can just throw it away. There's also like a guest profile that deletes everything after the session closes, or you can keep it running until you decide to destroy the profile. A lot of really good stuff.
was that, okay, now I need to use this app that I don't like to use. It feels intentional going there. I don't even see these apps when I use my phone on a regular basis. And it made it so that my phone starts feeling like it's...
Yeah, like I have an Instagram, you know. I don't like put pictures of myself up there, but I use it to communicate with people. Sometimes that's like what they prefer, you know, how to talk. I always try to convince people to talk somewhere else that's like a little bit more private, but I do have Instagram, and yeah, I keep it totally sandboxed, and a lot of times I'll disable it. I'll never keep it running in the background. Set up storage scopes, all that stuff, restrict access to most of the system, and then you can like there's an option where you can take an app and you can disable it, and when you disable it, it like freezes the app, so like it doesn't log you out or uninstall it. It like, I'm guessing like takes like an image, like takes a snapshot of it and stores it, and then like it's not running on your phone anymore, and then when you re-enable it, it comes back up and you're logged in and it's like nothing ever happened. But while it's disabled, it's not doing anything at all. So that's another good way to like keep so the point I'm making is I use Instagram and some other apps like that, but the thing is, like, I don't spend like a lot of time at all, really, just like randomly scrolling or looking through stuff, because none of that really helps me move towards my goals every day. It's not important, and most of the time, 99% of the time, it's just a distraction.
Serving me again, like an actual useful tool that it supposedly is, right? So yeah, huge fan. I'm so glad I swapped.
Yeah, use your phone like a tool. That's exactly what it is. And it gives you an advantage over people before us. But if you think about how most people use a phone, they are significantly disadvantaged compared to people a long time ago that didn't have phones. They're like debilitated. They're practically, in a lot of ways, like retarded. Like their brain is all messed up because their brain isn't releasing dopamine in a way that's, you know, rewards them to do anything in real life. It's really bad.
Out. It's probably the best thing I did so far, but it gets better. Okay, I had to ride this couple weeks. I tell you what, is it 6 or 5? I don't. I lost count. Anyway. Password managers. What do you mean password 123 isn't gonna cut it? I hate password managers. Why? Because they cost 67 pounds. To host a 5 kilobyte size document? I don't think so.
Yeah, there you go. Now you're thinking.
This whole video is me just doxing myself for being...
And a lot of times they're really not that secure. You know?
Cheap. It's not...
So it's like, what are you really getting? And like he's saying, like these people are making a lot of money because a password manager that's stored in the cloud, like the networking data, it's not a lot of bandwidth because it's not a lot of data being transmitted. It's not like you're streaming videos from your password manager. And just like he said, 5 kilobytes, a 5 kilobyte file. So they're paying nothing for storage. Like they're the cost of hosting the password manager per user is probably sub like $1, maybe even less.
Not happening. I'm not paying that. I almost had a heart attack when I found out. I'm paying what? But you need a password manager. That's just the reality of today. I thought I was so smart. I was like, okay, fine. I don't need to do this. I'm running Linux. I downloaded a backup. I made it into an HTML, and then I encrypted it. And then I had an alias, so I unencrypt it when I need to use it, and then quickly encrypt it. Is it unencrypt or decrypt?
Decrypt.
It doesn't matter. Bada bing, bada boom, I saved myself 67 pounds. If I live for, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like Proton Mail is like developed into like a whole suite of like privacy centric products, I guess, to like rival Gmail or Google. So there's like a Drive, like a cloud storage thing. There's a password manager, a VPN, and then you can also host your own email. Or I think you can buy the suite of products without hosting your own email. You should host your own email, but there's a lot of good, like really good alternatives. Which with the whole suite of products, Proton Mail is Probably still less than just the password manager. I think it's like $10 a month for like the very good one. But I think you can get the whole suite of products for even less, especially if you're not hosting your own email.
That's like, I saved myself a lot of money. Multimillionaire is a cheap.
But there's so much, like 90, a large majority of the advancements that happen in security happen in the open source space, if that makes any sense. So a lot of times when like encryption makes an advancement, it's I'm sure people at like Google and stuff like that work on things like that to make things more secure. But like a lot of times these like encryption methodologies and things like that are, you know, publicly documented. There's like a RFC explaining them, etc. So a lot of that stuff is born in the open source space and by people who think in an open source mindset. And so many times, so many times, especially with like Microsoft, Apple would maybe be an exception, but especially with Microsoft, like they have failed miserably at security on so many levels. So like there's like this perceived like amount of trust you get by just like offloading it and giving it to somebody else, but a lot of times it's an illusion.
.mp4, that's what I should call this. But then I realized I need this file on other devices. I need it on my phone and my laptop, and what if I go abroad? And that's when I discovered glorious SH, self-hosting. I can just host this on another device. I feel like ever since I did my Linux video, so many comments have been like, just wait until it discovers self-hosting. It's gonna be game over. And yet you were right, okay? I started off on a Raspberry Pi 5. This thing is relatively cheap. It's got Ethernet, it runs on low power, and it's powerful for its size. Can do more than enough for what I wanted to do. I found an open source alternative, which is Vault Warden. You can host your own password manager, basically. The problem was...
Yeah, let that be an example to illustrate how little computing power and networking bandwidth is required to service a single customer of a password managing service. And you can get stuff for even cheaper than that.
No clue what the heck I'm doing. What is a reverse proxy? What do you mean I can't just put my IP address in my browser and be done with it? Vault Warden is so secure that
you can a lot of times get like a cheap, older desktop, like a Dell Optiplex or something, for like $100, like the same price as a Raspberry Pi. And you can like pack it up with RAM, and you have a stronger CPU and some other stuff that's helpful.
That it wouldn't let me connect to it unless...
Like you don't have to write to a SD card in the case of most Raspberry Pis.
I set it up properly. Every time I thought I did it, I kept seeing the spinny circle, and I saw that circle for 2 goddamn days. But once it finally worked, magic. I have done it. I had saved myself 67 pounds.
Yep, feels good.
Tears running down my eyes. It was beautiful. My first successful self-host.
A lot of times the stuff like, it'll be hard at first. And there's a lot of stuff that you have to get like acclimated to. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. And I'm a firm believer that stuff like this, like knowing how to do basic stuff like this, like run some open source software, basic networking concepts, some Python scripting and Linux and how to use Linux. I think all that stuff should be taught in high school. Like very basic courses, just like they teach kids how to use Excel and Microsoft Word. Before they even do that, they should teach people how to use Linux.
My God, no more subscriptions, no more syncing drama, just my own secure vault. It felt like I was finally breaking out of the matrix.
People have this illusion like that nobody runs Linux. Like, oh, well, everybody uses Windows or Mac, but it's like the world runs on Linux. The world, Unix.
For real. And the thing is, once you start understanding how this
all this stuff that like all these like password, all these services and stuff that you're paying for, none of those people are hosting that stuff with Windows.
works, it's really not that bad. If anything, it became super fun because with compatibility layers like Docker, you can so easily just pick and choose what open source software you want to download, keep trying out.
Yeah, and now is a great time to like start learning this stuff because a lot of this stuff is a lot easier than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Different ones. The world is your oyster. Just pluck them from.
You can get by, like you can be pretty effective without having like a deep computer science understanding of things.
The trees. And everything just works. So I needed a note-taking app. I found one called Yoplin. That's how you say that, Yoplin. It had a desktop app and a phone app, which is exactly what I wanted. But when I installed Yoplin, this is where things got weird. Do not judge me here, okay? This is... You can probably relate to this, actually. Have you ever been so lazy that you try and find another alternative, but then that leads you on a road that was 10 times more complicated than just not being lazy?
Yes, actually, I encounter this routinely at places that I work. All the time. All the time. I explain like, hey, this is what we need to do. We need to set up this, and this, and we need to adapt everything that we have to this cloud computing mentality to get these things to run on Kubernetes. We need to do things in this way. And people say, oh, it's too complicated. It's too much work. And a lot of times I'll just go and silently do that in the back end because I know that's what's best. But if you take the leader's direction, in a lot of these cases, it ends up wasting a lot of time. And for somebody, if you have a team of like highly paid engineers, if stakeholders found out how much money they were wasting with those kind of decisions, that person would be fired in a lot of cases. So yeah, everybody does it. Even people that are seemingly have it all together do it all the time.
The image that I was trying to install on my Pi was not compatible. It was
Take the time to do things right. Do it the right way. Do it once. So you never have to do it again.
86 by 64. This is ARM-based structure. It doesn't matter.
That's the point of automation. I mean, if you're grinding out all this manual stuff because you made a bunch of bad technical decisions, then you're not really leveraging technology.
Not compatible. I can just find another one. But I thought, hey, why don't I just quickly install this on something that does run 86 by 64? And I look around and I'm like, oh. Well. My Steam Deck.
Nice.
Runs 86 by 64. So you may be asking, Felix, did you use your portable handheld...
Your name's Felix?
...gaming console to host your note-taking app? Yes, but it gets worse, actually. Steam runs Linux.
Better.
Beautiful. It actually runs Arch, which is the distro I use on my desktop. Match made in heaven. But
that makes sense because a lot of people that game on Linux use Manjaro, and that's known as being like the best way to run the easiest way to run Steam and game, and use like high-powered graphics cards like NVIDIA graphics cards on Linux with little to no issue.
I thought to myself, well, it's filled with all this like Steam bloat. I should probably uninstall Arch so I can then install Arch. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Hey man, sometimes that's what you gotta do.
Don't ask. And I did this, of course.
It's a good exercise.
Just so I wouldn't have to find another image of my note-taking app. But anyway, it works. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. Now, I got my notes.
And these stories and these mistakes, that does not say like.
App running beautifully.
Oh, it's okay.
Number 7 or 8. It was time to say goodbye, Google Drive. Goodbye, Jotaro. $20 for 100 gig? I don't think so. I'm not gonna pay you to hold my data hostage forever. Not happening. What if I live for another 600 years? Think about how much money that's gonna be to Google. No more subscriptions, redundant subscriptions. Instead of Google Drive, I set up File Browser. The thing that bothers me about all these free online storages that gives you a certain amount at least is that first of all, it's not safe. Second of all, I don't know what they're doing with that. Thirdly, I hate how it's used. I don't know if you can relate to this. Maybe it's just like a me problem, but let's say I've gone outside.
Microsoft is the best example of this because Windows, they're like constantly haranguing you and trying to trick you into using OneDrive and save your files there all the time. And it is so annoying. I don't choose to use Windows personally, but in some cases for work stuff, I'm required to.
I've touched grass.
And I can't stand it.
I've taken all these photos and videos, and then I sit down in front of my computer, and then all of a sudden internet goes down, and I'm like, what happened? And then it's like, oh, yeah, my Google Drive decided to back up every single photo and video I've ever taken. And it's like, I don't want that. I want certain images. Let me pick those first. And I don't want you to suck up my entire bandwidth. With File Browser, I can throttle the speed and I can do it when I want to, which files I want to. I went a little nerdy and overboard, surprise. And I wrote a bunch of aliases and shell functions so that I can define push or pull to download or upload, which device, my phone, laptop, desktop, deck, and which subfolder. And I do all this with glorious SSH. It actually solved another problem for...
I recommend to do stuff like that. Or just to figure just to pick something and figure it out all the way to the end. But there's so much stuff that is like so much better than that. There's something called like sync thing that just continually syncs stuff in the background, and you can control throttle like how it syncs, what it syncs, and when. Whether or not your phone syncs to your desktop. Whether or not it happens both ways, and you can connect over like a WireGuard connection to do that. WireGuard's super easy to set up. There's a lot of ways to do this where you don't have to do quite as much scripting. You can just have something running in the background all the time, and that's one of the ways I sync all the photos from my phone. So I have like I save all the photos on my phone. I set up the camera so that when I take pictures, they go to a specific directory, and then that directory is synced over SyncThing with my desktop or any other devices that I have.
For me, which is always sharing files between my phone and my desktop. I never know how to do it. Apparently, I didn't know this. I feel like everyone is tuning out because
and it happens automatically, like when you're on the same network. So you can make it so that it always happens, and you can make it so it's listening on like over a WireGuard connection so that it's constantly happening. But also like when you're at home, like say you have SyncThing on your phone at home, you can, whenever you connect to the Wi-Fi network, it just automatically starts syncing in the background.
Talking about SSH.
And you can specify the bandwidth. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, you can specify like how much bandwidth is used to transfer the files.
But you can run it on your phone. Look, I'm connected. And then I thought, fuck, and now I gotta do an opposite.
But it's a good idea just to do something like this, like to figure out like how to open a SSH connection to like another desktop or to another machine, and how to use that to view services that are running like locally on the machine on localhost that aren't exposed to the firewall or the 0.0.0.0 interface. It's good practice.
Script on my phone, but then I realized I can just connect to my desktop to run the script. It doesn't matter, okay? It's cool. Just trust me, it's cool. Number 9. AI. We have to talk about AI.
Yes, we do.
I don't know about you, but I don't like using AI. It feels like I'm kneeling directly to the tech overlords. And not...
Yeah, take my money and take my data to make your thing better so you can charge me more money.
Not to mention the goddamn subscription fees. I feel like I'm spoon feeding the machine that has stolen all my data, more of my data. Here you go. Nice and fat. Here you go. Not happening. But I got curious and, I built my own computer not long ago and I spent a lot of money on it. Why don't I just see if I can run it myself?
Yes, you can.
It's a beast. So I set up a local language model called Mixtral. Emphasis on local, which means it runs on my computer completely offline. It's beautiful. Now I can search whatever I want. And I can ask it dumb questions like, why is my left toe bigger than my right toe? And no one knows about it. Not Google, not AI overlords, not even you. Step 10. How many steps are there?
Yeah, be careful what you're putting into ChatGPT, because that's the new thing. It's like the new Google thing. That's why they're letting people use it for free.
And we have so much left. PDFs, Google Docs.
And that a lot of times the chats for, if you think about it, the ChatGPT chats are much more clear. You don't need to make as many assumptions about the user, because they're a lot of times very clearly expressing their intent and what they're trying to do. Whereas Google, you might kind of like search stuff in a way that like is not as informative.
Calendar, contacts. I was honestly getting a little tired at this point to try and find an alternative to all of these, but that's when I discovered Nextcloud. It's an open source self-host beast.
Nextcloud's good. I've used it in a enterprise setting before. Worked great.
And it does all of this for you. Maybe there are better singular alternatives, but the fact that I can get all of this baked in one was exactly what I needed. And just one quick install and it was done. I was completely out of Google. And it felt amazing. Finally, I'm free. From here on is when I needed to tighten things up a little bit. I actually bought a domain. I know, I paid a subscription fee. But it's worth it. If you're self-hosting, it's actually worth it because you can get a domain for $5 a year. It means I can get better security features and I can put all these services in subdomains. So like docs.mysubdomain.com and password.mysubdomain.com, like all these different things I made, I can access easily. I don't have to type my IP address for each one. And I started to tighten down the security as well, especially because I was looking online. I'm like,
yeah, you can set up like that's why it's a good reason. It's a good reason or a good case for like understanding DNS at like a basic level, something they should also teach in school. Because administrating stuff like this becomes a lot easier and a lot simpler. And you realize that creating all these subdomains and all these records are something that just takes a couple minutes and it's not overly complicated. And hosting email is something that's not overly complicated either.
Getting a lot of bots that are pinging me.
I'm curious if he's running his own email server. I doubt that he is, because that probably wouldn't be a good idea. But the best thing would be to find somebody like Proton Mail or somebody that can host your email that has a clear commitment to privacy, and then buying a domain and using that to for your email. Set up GPG, all that.
I don't like this. Everything is locked in with the password already, but I added another layer of zero trust, so you can't access anything unless you have another login. I locked in my IP address with Tailscale. Beautiful Tailscale. I could make a whole video. I had a fail to ban. It was definitely worth spending some time locking things down. And I think I found a good balance of it being secure, but also not like a huge hassle every time you want to access either.
Yeah, and you can make security more convenient, but it does take a little bit higher skill level.
Now, swapping out all these Google services, there's one that I just can't escape, and I don't mean YouTube. There's one that sucked the most to get rid of, and that was actually Google Maps, because Google tracks you so well.
You can use Google Maps in a very private way on Graphene OS. So whenever you make your initial Graphene profile and you can install the Sandbox Google Play Store, which gives you the ability to install things like Google Maps, and it also gives you Google Play Services, which is what Maps uses to communicate with the APIs of your like GPS devices and things like that. But you can sandbox things in such a way that you can make sure you're only giving Google a limited amount of information, and you can make sure that it's not constantly collecting your information in the background, which you can specify on in your preferences for your Google account when you make your Google account when you first download the Sandbox Google Play.
It is so good at.
But I also highly recommend just learning your area and learning how to get around the best you can. But you can make it so that whenever you want to use Google, you can like pull down the like the menu for toggling your location, and it's right there, and you can turn your location on and then open maps and then start using it, and then you can turn it off and then sandbox the app pretty quickly and easily without like getting you into a car crash.
Predicting traffic. And since I drive a lot in Tokyo, I really rely on that to get to places on time. You can't be late in Japan. It's like a death sentence. The first time I used my open source alternative, I ended up 30 minutes late. And that's when I realized, hey, maybe Big Brother tracking everything isn't so bad.
It's all about what you're getting in exchange for what you're giving up. That's really what it comes down to. And Google Maps is one of those things that's worth what you're giving up. And Google Maps is so important to Google. Like, they protect that data more than just about anything else. Like, if you try to scrape Google Maps data, like a significant enough amount where it seems like you might be trying to replicate their data or get access to it so you can have your own service, they will shut you down so fast. It's very important, and they know that. It's a huge asset for them.
Maybe surveillance has its perks, but I stuck to my de-googling, and the best alternative I found was just using my car's GPS.
That works.
It has all this Japanese services built in anyway. I ended up using my Pi to replace my Google TV, and I'm running Kodi on that. I haven't really fully set it up.
There you go.
Up yet, so not much to say about it. And you may remember,
you can also get TVs that don't have like a user land operating system installed. They don't connect to the network at all. They don't require a network connection to work. So you can just use a TV like how you used to back in the day. You can just plug in an input, and then you can do most of the stuff that you would normally want to do on your TV by controlling the Raspberry Pi or media box with like a keyboard mouse, or like a USB keyboard mouse combination thing that you can kind of use as a remote.
I'm doing all of this on my Steam Deck. I added an extension so I can plug it into Ethernet. That way it runs on less power. It runs completely headless, and I can monitor all of it on my safe network system that I have. But then I thought it'd be kind of cool to use the display, so I can use that for monitoring. I ran Tmux and BTOP on it, and it looks so cool. You know, this all started because I wanted to de-Google and try what that was.
Looks like he's running a tiling window.
So cool.
Yeah, looks like he's running a tiling window manager down there.
You know,
I guess it's Tmux.
this all started because I wanted to de-Google and try what that was like. And by the end of it, my Steam Deck looks like it's a detonator for a bomb or something like that. And before you ask, yes, I can still game on it, all right? It runs 2% of my CPU. It's like this weird home lab abomination at this point, but I love it. I love looking at it. I got it sitting next on my desk. It's just a vibe, man. Every time I see it, I'm happy. Another fact that I like using my Steam Deck is the fact that I can just use whatever I have around me. People have these like super sick home lab setups, which are awesome. I get it, but my point with this is that if you wanted to de-Google, you can use whatever you have at your disposal. It shouldn't cost you any extra money.
Yeah, and for people that are trying to learn so that they can get a job, your tenacity to use whatever you have available makes you extremely, extremely valuable in the marketplace. It sends a very strong signal about your capacity to figure things out and use whatever you have at your disposal, which is really the kind of people that the tech industry needs. You don't want people that are like sitting around whining, oh, I need this, I can't do this unless I have this, and make it work. Make it work for what you have. I do it all the time. I have plenty of money to be able to buy stuff that I need, but a lot of times I just don't.
Like, I'm not going to pretend that Steam Deck is the ultimate self-host device. You're probably better off using a Pi, but...
Or I at least make these purchases, you know, I take a long time to think about them.
Maybe you have some device laying around at home that you can run Linux on. Bring it back to life, you know? Instead of throwing it away, and I hate to be that guy, but it's better for the environment. Yes.
Yeah, and some computer that you think that is worthless, that is like really slow, that has old hardware because you're running Windows on it and you're ultimately convinced that it's a piece of crap, install Linux on it and you will find that it works absolutely fine. Run something like Ubuntu. It will work absolutely fine for most of the stuff that you want to do on it. Maybe not like some like really heavy compute intensive stuff, but in a lot of cases, yeah, you still can.
It's a lot of tinkering, but you learn a lot, and by the end of it, it's done. Like, I don't have to touch it. Google's mantra is don't be evil, but I still think they have a lot to do to qualify for that title. I feel like on your phone you have all these settings with privacy and give permissions and all these things that they ask you. But it kind of feels like one of those toys that Björn has that it's just like a bunch of buttons that doesn't actually do anything. Unless you go all the way with privacy, it doesn't mean anything. Don't call it privacy. And for me, it's not even necessarily about Google. I think it's more about big tech in general. I hate where software is going. Unnecessary subscriptions, ads, locking, updates changing the entire UI because you're more prone somehow to get more locked in. With YouTube, you know, it's been constantly changing for years and years and years just because they figured this is the best way to suck you in.
Yeah, people talk about like making a change and rebellion against the status quo and fighting against, like, you want to do that kind of stuff, this is a good first step. Do this stuff and start talking about it.
If I host my own apps, there's none of that. So now I got my own home lab abomination and I love it.
The people that were originally working on software and developing this stuff, everything that's going on now is like the exact opposite of what they intended. Look up Linus Torvald or Richard Stallman.
I'm finally free from the tech.
Look at what they talked about. There's like videos of them talking about the work they were doing at MIT and the things that they decided on. It's very enlightening.
Overlords. It was 100% worth it. And look, bro, I made you one too.
That fear that you feel when like you want to get away from Microsoft and you feel like you can't is entirely manufactured. Entirely. And all these tech companies want you to feel that way on purpose. Good video. Happy to see people like this doing the Lord's work.